Hey, JulesBlessedVegan, and as always, welcome to my channel. And for those of you who are new, I know you can benefit. So I hope you had a great Valentine's Day. Even if it was just you recognizing the small things, right? Like gift to self. Maybe you always have tea at night, but you're recognizing that that's you caring for yourself in a loving way, right? Or maybe somebody gave you a compliment and this time you actually took it in for what it was, Those are just small ways of being a Valentine to yourself, which is fabulous. I had a very difficult day yesterday, and I wasn't lovely to my people I loved the most. I felt so bad, but sometimes we feel safer to allow ourselves to be how we're really feeling around those that love us, but it's not lovely. So what happened to me was I had a couple of situations yesterday with parents that were unexpected, and I had to coach myself to be in my adult because I started to panic and become very little. So I had to stay in my adult, be totally appropriate, go through the proper things, and I did, and I got all those things done, but I was sorry for it. Like, I just would have not wanted any of that conflict. And then, because I, fully did the 2,100 miles of driving in 5 days, and then came home and immediately went to school and was already behind, because I had to do damage control, and then I had things due that I wasn't ready for, and it's not operating the way I prefer, and I sound tired right now because I'm literally tired in my whole being. I'm tired. And so by the time I got out of school yesterday, my sister called me and I was seemingly barking at her, and she was like, "Hey, I'm not your problem." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, I know." And then I got home to my husband and he was like, "Just stay away from me." Like, he could see all the stuff, all the energy. And I was like, "No, what? I really want to celebrate." He was just like, "That's a no." When you have a cranky little kid and you have to put him to bed and they say, "But I'm not even tired." Yeah. I in the big picture really appreciated his insight. But yeah, it got ugly fast. So anyway, I'm glad yesterday is over. But part of what the problem is this inner critic, and still fighting the inner critic all the time. I don't know if that's true for you, but if you come from a perfectionistic parent, and that doesn't mean that my parents were that, but within myself, I have a perfectionistic parent who generally tells me I'm not enough. And this isn't about my parents. I don't think, yes, sometimes my parents most certainly did criticize, but I came out of the womb seeing life this way, right? So every adult figure I saw as a potential threat. And then I accidentally became one. I don't know how that happened, but yeah, suddenly I'm an adult and I'm like, wait, what? Okay, so I found a fantastic one. If you can relate to this at all, I want to share. It's by Jeb Kinnison, Kinnison, and he has an amazing site which I'm going to share and save because I think it's fantastic. And this one is called More Helpful Ideas for Quieting That Negative Inner Critic. So I read another girl's one, and she was saying, sometimes the inner critic can be very helpful, but this is for quieting the negative inner critic. And I like the cartoon, which I'm using as the icon for this, which says, "I can't do it. I'm not worthy. I must be perfect. I must not make a mistake. I'm not good enough. Nobody loves me." Like breaking this chick's back, right? So he takes some of this from Robert L. Leahy's, who has a PhD, book called How to Put Down the Self-Critic, or it's at least a blog in Psychology Today. So it says, "Do you find that there is a critical voice in your head that follows you around all day and all night? It may pop up as you get out of bed, late again, or when you look in the mirror, you look exhausted, or you notice it when you get to work, you never get things done on time. And when you meet people, you hear that voice nagging at you saying, 'What a bore you are.'" That's not me. Not that one. I don't bore people. If this sounds familiar, then you might take some momentary comfort in knowing that you're not alone. And I don't mean you are not alone because your critic follows you. I mean that almost all of us have a voice at times. The question is, what are you going to do about it? And that's what's so great about these, because they actually give you suggestions and steps on how to quiet that voice. And I like this part a lot. It says, this may sound odd to say, that the self-critical voice shouldn't be taken seriously. But just because you're thinking something doesn't mean that it's important, relevant, or something to spend time with. I like to think of these negative thoughts as the telemarketing call that you don't take. How brilliant is that? I think of the negative thoughts as the telemarketing call that you don't take, or the caller ID that tells you it's someone you don't want to talk to. Okay, I'm in love. I'm in love with those ideas. Or you can think of the self-critical thought as one of the trains at Grand Central Station that's not going in your direction. Simply having a negative thought does not mean it's all relevant to your valued goals. If you focus on your goals and carry out challenging and sometimes difficult behaviors to accomplish those goals, you can allow the self-critical voice to yak away in the background while you continue to move forward. Think about this self-criticism as eavesdropping on someone else's conversation. Okay, that is so cool. And you know what? It just reminds me, like, my monkey mind isn't going to shut up. But can I ignore my monkey or appease my monkey, right? And I have different methods for appeasing my monkey. So yeah, it's kind of the same thing. I mean, the self-criticism is eavesdropping, but can you stay focused on the goal? So an alternative to the self-critical voice is the self-correction voice. Oh, I like this. Imagine the following. You are learning how to play tennis and you hit the ball into the net. The trainer comes out and tells you to whack yourself in the head 10 times for doing something right. Okay, is that a good idea? In contrast, imagine a different trainer who shows you exactly how to hit the ball over the net. Which is the better approach? You can correct yourself without criticizing yourself. You can say, okay, that behavior didn't work this time, so let me try a different approach. Replace your self-criticism with self-correction. Then you can use your mistakes as an opportunity to improve. Let's say that again. Replace your self-criticism with self-correction, and then you can use your mistakes as an opportunity to improve. Self-criticism is often very general and very vague. So true. Seldom does the person actually say, well, I need to hold the racket this way rather than that way. Rather, it's a very general term. I'm a lousy player. I'm an idiot. Check out your self-critical voice and ask yourself if you are making gross generalizations about yourself. Try to replace these statements with specific behaviors that you can change. After all, it's a lot easier to change the way you hold the racket than to stop being an idiot. Here's the test. How would you know when you had stopped being an idiot? How would you know if you are now holding the racket correctly? Like, which one is more measurable? Finally, be as kind to yourself as you would be to a friend. I have found that the nicest people I know are often incredibly self-critical, even cruel towards themselves. So yes, this is a double standard that only makes you feel worse. Try this. Write out your self-critical statements for a day, and then imagine saying all these things to your best friend. Why would you think it would be cruel and unfair to do that? In contrast, try saying supportive things to yourself that you would say to a friend, and you will get a lot further rewarding in supporting yourself than by treating yourself in a way that you wouldn't treat a friend or a stranger, and I would dare add, or an enemy. You won't build a successful life on criticizing yourself, but you will build it on getting things done. So it says all very useful advice. For those of us who suffer an inner critic modeled on a perfectionistic parent, that's the model, this nagging is worse than useless. It's demotivating. You can be a successful perfectionist by concentrating on a task, not yourself. Next time, I will do it differently, and I will turn out better. Not, I'm stupid, I can't do anything right. If you want to accomplish things, you can get bogged down in recriminations. You get right back up and try it again with a correction, and again until the result is good enough. The perfectionist has to learn that 80% of what she thinks is perfect and generally a lot better than what others would think good enough, and learn to use her time wisely to move on to the next problem when the returns to further fine-tuning our small. By accomplishing much more than those who get bogged down in that last refinement, he or she tunes herself to be the very best. By seeing flaws no one else sees, she guarantees she will always be improving. By believing in herself and her methods, she is immune to the disparaging inner critic. Anyway, I suffer from an inner critic like every dang minute, and sometimes I have the grace to comfort myself. The interesting thing, and it's not even a matter of arrogance, is that I am such an incredibly capable person, and more so than most. And I just came out of the womb that way. But at the same time, from various experiences, I have come to be very mean and hateful to myself on a moment's notice, and it doesn't serve me at all. And so, for instance, when I started having the conflict with those parents, and when I started feeling out of control because I wasn't organized the way I prefer to be, I immediately started criticizing myself, and that led to me wanting to run and just quit everything and go back to that desert oasis of living off the grid. Oh, that is so not me. Like, as quickly as I think of that, I think of suicidal tendencies. I mean, seriously, oh my gosh. It was bad. I realized I was getting so desperate, and then being so mean and offending people, and then feeling hateful to myself for doing that, because, oh my gosh, how selfish of you. Like, that inner critic voice for me, it's just unbelievable. I'm going to stay on this topic for a couple of days because it helps me process, if it helps you at all. And there's some other really good ones on just recognizing, like, at the bottom of this article, I wanted to share this controlling your inner critic. Remember, if you followed me at all, and I talked about the monkey mind, which often gets me towards binging and not taking care of myself and my health. One of the ways to silence the monkey mind was to give it a moment, to allow it to write, in writing in my journal, a couple of minutes of whatever the concerns were for the monkey mind. And then when he shows up during the day, I can say, excuse me, I already gave you your time this morning. You don't get to monkey until tomorrow morning. And it's a way to quiet him down. And I am interested in ways of controlling that inner critic because it is exceptional right now. And just getting a better view of why it's rearing its ugly head to the extent that it is. All right, like if you like, join us if you haven't, subscribe. A couple days ago, I did do a video on doing just one thing, reading one page, drinking 1 cup of water, one thing. And one of my one things was going to an event. And I was brave in the moment and promised you guys that I would go to the event. And the event is today. And automatically I was like, I think I'll call and say I'm sick. Well, I could say that I'm still in the desert. Well, I can let him know that I'm so overwhelmed by my nephew Dean that I promised I'd go. I made the commitment to my one event, and I'm going to go and leave all the lies at home. And I'm just going to trust that God has a great event coming and that I'll love it and just enjoy it all. And if not, I can at least honor myself by knowing I did it. And referring to my nephew, I haven't heard anything today, but I know he's where he needs to be and that all the right people are caring for him. Okay, like if you like, join us if you haven't, subscribe again, and until we talk again, best of all, know that you're blessed.